Welcome to the Clubhouse Rags Show, your backstage pass to style, stories, and the swagger that sets the Clubhouse apart. With your host, Lee Lathowers, proudly sponsored by Clubhouse Rags, where classic meets bold and every stitch tells a story. Whether you're teeing off or kicking back, this is your hour to unwind, get inspired, and stay sharp. Let's roll.
Hey, Mike, thank you so much. Pleasure to be back here for episode 2 of the Clubhouse Rags Show. Today is a very exciting show. We have a very special in-studio guest today. It really boils down to one thing, guys. You take an idea and you want to turn it into a concept and make it into reality. It takes people to do it. It takes special people to do it. And the individual that is sitting to my left is one of those very unique individuals that helped bring Clubhouse Rags from a mere vision into reality.
And just to get back into the story behind Clubhouse Rags, is this is a golf apparel company but it's really more of a tribute to your dad and your dad's fantastic art.
Oh, absolutely. It's a total legacy business that we've created. Yeah. And in order to do that, we had to take art that was one-dimensional and try and turn it into something that was three-dimensional. And that takes some work. It doesn't get done in a weekend. And we had to find somebody very special to bring in that got it, that believed in it, and we've done that. And that is why I'm sitting here today, being able to be proud of it and be able to explain it to everybody. So it's a wonderful thing when you meet somebody and you don't have any idea where it's going to go. But sometimes things work out for a great reason.
Absolutely,
so, yeah.
100%. And of course, Clubhouse Rags is a fantastic golf apparel company, but also, as we mentioned before, celebrating your father's art. And just to back up real fast, your dad was a combat sketch artist.
He was.
Served in the Pacific Theater during World War II.
Yep, 5 years in the Western Pacific. He did. And basically, that's where he honed his skills. He essentially was covering the war as it developed, and he worked with photographers and writers from newspapers and magazines in the United States to send this back for media in America.
And then he came home and started to work in the advertising industry.
Yes,
using his skills to really cement his career, raise a great family as well.
Oh, thank you.
And then stick around, folks. You're listening to the Clubhouse Rag Show. We're going to return with the man behind the pen right now, Dave Davies.
Yes, indeed.
Stick around, you guys. We'll be right back. This is the Clubhouse Rags Show, clubhouserags.com. Welcome back to the Clubhouse Rags Show with your host, Lee Lathowers.
Thank you, Mike. Good to be back. Well, something very special. We wanted to do this for a while, and now we finally have the opportunity. Sitting to my left, I'd like to introduce a very special guest. His name is Dave Davies. He serves as our art director for Clubhouse Rags. And without him, I can honestly say we would not be sitting and having this conversation today because we wouldn't have a company. It's interesting. Sometimes life is what comes at you when you least expect it, and that's really what happened in the situation with Dave and my family. I was a food and beverage industry for 55 years, and the last 10 years of my life, I oversaw the build-out and the general management of a winery and vineyard operation up in San Ynez, California. We opened in 2015, and Dave and his wife, Judy, came in one of the first weeks that we were open, and we sat down and met, and they joined our wine club. And there was nothing discussed about art. It was all about what do you do, what do you serve, what kind of wines do you make. And as things essentially go, I found out that Dave was an illustrator by trade. And he started talking to me about the projects that he had in his life and showing me his work. And so I thought, well, this seems to be the right timing for me to kind of share something with Rag's work with Dave. And so I started bringing in bits and pieces of what our father had been doing. And he basically sat back in his chair and he says, whoa, I there's no way I can do that. That's incredible. So essentially, he was very impressed with what we had to show him. And as time went on, long story short, and we were talking about wanting to do something to create a legacy for my father, we decided that we could do something with these golf characters that my father did in 1978. But taking the characters from where they were on paper to something that was wearable commemorations, as we like to now call them, taking them from one dimension to three dimension was going to require some work, and I didn't have the skill set to do that. So enter Dave, and Dave actually stepped up and said, I love it, I want to be involved in it. And so careful what you wish for in life, Dave, because you got your wish.
Well, you're right, I did.
Dave, let's get a little bit of your background. So were you always, were you artistic as a child? Did you draw as a child?
Yeah, I spent my whole life with art. I was an art major in school. I was influenced by Mad Magazine in my era, and I did a lot of that kind of stuff, actually on T-shirts, and I did posters and a lot of art, and actually wanted to go to work for Disney, but got married young and ended up bringing up a family and stuff. So I kept with the art. I do art all the time, drawing and sketching, and actually film. If I do a lot of pictures, a lot of different kind of art. Yes.
So what did you think when Lee approached you and said maybe it's time, it would be nice to collaborate on this Clubhouse Rags project?
I thought it'd be really interesting because I had done a few things similar to that, and when he said that he'd like to do this, I said I think I could help you out with the whole layout and where to go and how to bring these characters onto digital and the whole works, and that's where I helped him out.
And so you get this character involved here, Lee, and let's bring up some of the logo work and some of the art that Dave has done.
Yeah, there's some stuff that you have there that he was responsible for. Our logo, number one, the Clubhouse Rags logo, which is really gained a lot of acceptance with people. It's simple, but it tells a tale. Clubhouse being for the favorite place, it's 19th hole that everybody knows who's ever played golf. And Rags was Dad's pen name for the 60 years in his career. So putting the two together made the most sense. And when Dave came back and showed me what he had come up with, I absolutely fell in love with it right from the get-go. Well, we as a family fell in love with it. And it's been there ever since, so it's been terrific.
So, Dave, when you come in and when you see Lee's dad's work, I mean, was that something similar to your style and aesthetic, or did you have to kind of adjust to that? What was that process like creatively?
His dad's work was incredible. His ink style, his colors, it's nothing that I could get even close to. But my freestyle, when I was doing my freestyle, it ended up getting real tight when I went to graphic designs on AutoCAD, and the looseness kind of went away. So it was really refreshing to see Lee's dad's stuff pop out like it is. It was pretty cool stuff.
And what was that? That's very interesting, Lee, to see that, your dad, a pen and ink sketch artist, started
Right.
out, as a combat sketch artist, and now we've entered the digital age.
Yeah.
So, I mean, walk us through the process, both of you guys. Does it still start with pen and ink on paper, and then you go to the digitalization process?
That's a great question. What I had was all of his original work that was either was on paper or was on canvas flats. Those are the two mediums that he worked in. And he worked with pen in different colored inks, and he worked with brush, and that was a custom-made camel hair brushes that were done in Germany, and custom-made inks for the color swatches that he used. And his style, his technique was the type of pressure that he would use in order to manipulate the pen and the ink images. So on the canvas, there was actually a surface that would come up. You could feel ink lines that he made on the canvas. It didn't so much go on the paper, but in order to get that right, we had to do that transfer to the digital. I was worried about it because I was afraid we were going to lose the overall brightness and the color. And these were things that were done well over 40 years ago. But when Dave got together with Jimmy Nolan, which is JN Designs out of Oxnard, who ended up doing all of our physical manufacturing for our goods. They were impressed with the fact that when they were taking it and doing the transfer into digital, they didn't have to do too much manipulation with color or contrast or saturation, because the images looked as if they were done last weekend. They held up that well all those years. So they had some great stuff to work with. There was still a little manipulation had to be made in order to get it into digital so that we could put it into a sublimation printing process for getting the transfers onto clothes.
I want to go back to something you mentioned about your dad and his particular style, about how the pressure of the brush really created the aesthetic. Yeah. And Dave, as a trained artist, was that a technique that you're aware of?
Oh yes, his dad's stuff was so clean. That was the part that amazed me, is between the colors and fading into each color perfectly. It was his ink work that was incredible, because a lot of times when they use pen, you get straight lines, very boring. His pen work would go from a thin line to a thick line. He would bring out pieces in the art that you have to really work to get. His flowed in very beautifully. That was what's so nice about it. And with artists, first thing you look at is hands and feet. And Rag's hands and feet art was just incredible. That's all you can say.
Yeah.
So, Lee, when you first saw Dave's work, it must have been a little bit mind-blowing to see someone reproduce and recreate something that your dad did so well in such an amazing way.
Yeah, it really was very rewarding. And the one golden rule that we had, and we talked about this on the way down, was that Dave was told right up from me, you don't change any of the images. They are what Dad did. They don't change. If he wanted them different, he would have made them different. And what you need to really do is kind of embellish around the imaging. And there's some new imaging that we created, the logo, for instance. There's other things that he did, but he honored that, and that was huge, because I didn't want that changed. That's who we are, and that's how we wanted to represent. And they did an absolutely knock it out of the park job for what they came up with that you see now as it's transcended to garments, and it holds the color, the detail, everything is so beautiful. It's amazing.
The proof is in the pudding, folks. Check it out at Clubhouse Rags at clubhouserags.com. Clubhouserags.com, not only for their great apparel, but also the great art, and also a true living legacy for your fantastic father, who is a veteran. Thank you very much for his service.
Yes.
Stick around, you guys. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Clubhouse Rags Show. You are listening to the Clubhouse Rags Show with your host, Lee Lathowers.
Thank you, Mike. Glad to be back. Dave, well, you're passing the acid test here, so we'll ask some more questions of you.
Go for it. I'm ready.
I know in the last segment I brought up that I was kind of the Third Reich when it came to what you could and couldn't do with particular material that our father turned out. But I know as an artist and an illustrator that had to be challenging for you to kind of get your brain around that mandate, because you're a creative person in your own right. And that may or may not have been a stumbling block for you. I know we've discussed this before, but I realize now after saying that yes, you probably had a love-hate relationship with me after I told you how it was supposed to work and there was no deviation. But what were your thoughts on that? What did you run into?
Well, it was more of keeping everything as you want it, and it was keeping the colors and the whole works. But when you go from freestyle hand to graphic pixel stuff,
Mm-hmm.
You don't get that same flow. So it's really hard to keep that same flow going through it. So to get you started, we would actually scan the piece with the color and all that, and then in digital stuff we have to subtract the color out, and then we have to bring the white out, or the line work out. So we're able to pull the color out, get the line work, and then we're able to bring the color back in.
Yeah.
And Some of it you have to look out that you don't flatten the colors or get rid of the sharpness of the
which
ink.
you did not do, because
No,
both are
well,
absolutely stellar for detail and brightness.
I was able to do a lot of that, where stripping this and that, but when it came to making sure that you kept the colors and everything, if it wasn't for Jim Naylor, we'd be in a lot of trouble, because he's the one that made sure that we did not lose any of that. And I had to keep reminding him, because Jim he's a great artist to himself. So he would every now and then want to get a little carried away, and I'm going, no, we can't get carried away here. So no, it was definitely a different project for me.
I remember a couple times I sat in when the two of you were starting to go through all that, and I sat there very silent watching, and I was very impressed because of the process that you just mentioned about trying to get the digital right. And I really had no concept of that. I didn't think it was going to be as easy as just taking it and putting it through a scanner and we're done.
No.
And by no means was it. But you guys working together, you really knocked it out of the park, because it shows now in the final product for our merchandise, especially if you see our characters on shirts, on the camp shirts in particular. They are absolutely stellar. There's no loss. There's no degradation in any way, shape, or form to that image in texture or color or sharpness. And as I said, it looked like they were done last weekend.
Well, that's not only do you have to actually produce the art to make something out of the ether, based upon these characters that Lee, your dad, created, but then you also have to put them on a garment.
Yeah.
And so what does that process involve?
That process is a process that there's two ways of doing it. One is where it's actually jetted on with it's a printer that jets on color straight on, and that's another factor, because the colors that are jet flown on take a different color, so you have to work with the color on that. And then the other one was a transfer that they do, and you could see in the photos that goes on a vellum, and the vellum is it's reversed, and that technique is much crisper, and that's what we ended up using on the camp shirts is the press-ons. And then the sewing was a whole nother story too, because you have to get the stitching right.
Oh yeah, embroidery.
Yeah, you have to get the stitching right. You get the thin ones, the heavier ones, and I was real adamant of what I wanted from that. And his shop, Jimmy's shop, worked with us real well.
Yeah, they were great. It's beautifully laid out, as the pictures will show you. He can do just about anything, literally. We're very lucky to have that connection. And who knew that, when I got involved with the Davis family, I was going to run into the Nolan family, which runs all the production for us. So it was a win-win all the way around.
I mean, one thing I can tell, just by, this is a friends and family company.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And, just based off the rapport that, you guys have, and, it seems like are you guys having fun doing this?
Oh, yeah.
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 Yeah. It was really fun as we developed it, and we would come up with taglines. We wanted a tagline. I had an idea that for myself that it was rags that I really wanted to push, the small little face rag, because those are all characters that Rags did of himself. So I felt those were real personal there.
There he is.
And so I wanted to make sure that those were there, the logo was right, and the artwork we knew was right. And then when we were trying to come up with taglines, I would call Lee and say, Lee, I think we need a tagline. What do you think? And I would throw him a bunch of taglines, and then I wouldn't hear from him for a day. And then all of a sudden I get back, well, I really like this one, and everybody was excited. So it made it really quite fun. The whole thing's been a ball.
Yeah.
Are you guys going to create any more characters moving forward?
Oh, yeah.
Well, yes. We have not actually totally finished the Vintage Hickory Swingers. There's a couple of characters that are in our quiver here that Dad did that we didn't use originally. And if you notice, in all of our golfers, there's no caddy. We have an interesting character coming up, and his name is going to be Hamish MacBaggish, which will be the official caddy of our crew here. We also came up with a fictitious country club where these guys all have been hanging their hats for a number of years, and that is called the Verdyville Country Club. It's a tie-in to another project that we are hoping that we can pull into this one. I won't go into any further detail at this moment since it's somewhat under wraps. But yeah, we're going to take this thing to another level. In anything creative, Mike, there starts and stops. You don't know what you're going to do. You have an idea what you want to do. You got to find the right people to do it. You may not. I was lucky. We were very lucky to tap into Dave and his creative resources. But there's other things on the table that I've been just dying to throw out there. But we've made some changes along the way. We had some starts and stops. Had to get our website up and going. You know, we're out there with 1.6 billion other websites, so you're constantly trying to keep that out in front of people.
That was tough.
Yeah, and it still is. And, you know, we're on Instagram. We're running ads on Instagram. Now we have the beauty of these shows that help spread the word of what we're doing. So it's a collective effort of a lot of things, and I'm not the most patient guy in the world. I used to be, and when I retired is when I finally had time to do this. I would have never been able to do this when I was working full time. So now I'm sorry I'm retired because I'm working harder now than I was when I was getting when I was punching a clock. But it's all good. It's worked out fine.
So Dave, that must be a little bit exciting though. I mean, because you've already put pen to paper and reproduced some of Lee's father's fantastic characters, the stick swingers as you call them. But now to introduce new characters, I mean, of course you're going to still honor your dad's legacy by using the same kind of aesthetic, the same kind of.
You're right. Those will have to be changed a little bit because the characters are a little different presented. So to present it the way that Lee wants to, we're going to have to. We'll do some changes, but I will definitely keep to his father's standards.
Oh, I'll give you a little creative.
No, you don't.
A little license.
You don't do it.
I have witnesses now. What am I going to do?
Have you guys ever considered creating characters about people, directly in your lives, like yourselves, perhaps?
We never talked about that. No, we actually haven't talked about that. I wouldn't rule it out. Anything's possible at this juncture. It was all first and foremost about Dad's work. Getting it out there. And the beauty of this thing, Mike, is we're now able to share this with the world at large, which Dad could never do because he never wanted to sell anything. And
why was that?
Well, because he was typical of most artists. He always felt that he did not rate in the eyes of his contemporaries.
I'll verify that.
Simple.
It's an artist.
It's a normal situation that most artists suffer from. And
is that an insecurity, Dave?
I don't know. It's just that I've never felt a lot of my stuff is worthy of stuff, but everybody loves my stuff.
Your stuff is fantastic.
But it's I never myself feel that way. So I have to I put double into it to make sure that I get it right.
Yeah.
But I think you're right, Lee. All artists feel that way. I think it's like an actor who gets afraid or stage fright coming out on stage. It's just, and they've been doing it 500 years. That's just part of the game.
I don't know. I mean, I know that plenty of musicians out there will put all their stuff out there and just let it throw against the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah.
But if you guys want to check out more about this fantastic Clubhouse Rags show, you can find us on Spotify and also on Apple. You can also find us on YouTube. You can search for Clubhouse Rags Show or CRN Digital Talk on YouTube and find this fantastic broadcast. And if you're listening to this as a podcast, give us a like or subscribe or give us a review. Ask any questions you want in the comments. We'd be happy to hear those as well. So you're listening to the Clubhouse Rags Show with Lee Lathowers and special guest art director of Clubhouse Rags, Mr. Dave Davies. I'm Mike Gary. Stick around. We'll be right back. Stay with us, folks. You are listening to the Clubhouse Rags Show with your host, Lee Lathowers, and special guest, Mr. Dave Davies.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks. Good to be back. As we just touched on in our last segment for the break, I mentioned that dirty word website, and everyone's got one. My favorite connotations, there's 1.6 billion of them out there, which is probably not far off from the count that actually exist. But it was quite obvious early on that in order for us to get out in front of the public, we were going to have to create a website. And it's a daunting task. There's many, many ways to do it. You can do it right online for a nominal fee, and you can have one within an hour. Or you can hire someone that knows more about it than you do, and you can pay them an exorbitant amount of money and have one in a year. And I took the year route. So I knew going into this that the website had to be something very special. It had to be right, and it had to get the message out to honor our father's legacy. So I looked up and found the best website company in Santa Barbara, California. I went through all their ratings. I talked to a lot of their clients and said, these are the guys. The name of the company is called Fat Eyes Web Development. Been doing it for about 25 years, and they have a litany of high-end clients that couldn't be happier with what they've done. I approached Fat Eyes one day over the telephone and told them I was interested in becoming a client and what I wanted to do. And I explained to them, I said, the only hitch in this is that I'm not really, yes, it's a business and I'm selling things, but I have a legacy message that has to be first and foremost in putting this website together. And they kind of paused for a moment, and I think they were scratching their heads going, what do you mean by legacy? I said, well, this is a legacy as a testament to my father's work, 60 years of his work as an artist. And he's passed, and he left all of his works to my brother and I. And we want to get this out in front of the world at large, but we have to do it correctly. I want it done properly. I'm not giving you a timeline on this. It's going to take the time it takes. And when it's ready, it'll be ready. So the next suggestion was, well, why don't we do a Zoom meeting? You can show us everything that you have. And I said, no, that Zoom meeting is not going to work for this. When I say he had a 60-year treasure trove of work, I'm not making that up. He did. And I said, there's no way that I could impress you with what we have that we think is worthy over a Zoom meeting. And I said, well, what do you want to do? I said, look, let's meet in a park. There's a park where we used to hang out as a family in Goleta called Tucker's Grove, and had a lot of memories for my dad because he drew a lot of inspiration from Tucker's Grove, from picnics and birthdays and all kinds of things we did there as kids. So I got them to agree to come to the meeting in Tucker's Grove, and I brought all the work and I had it up on big boards so they could see it, and we laid it out on 3 different picnic tables. And when they arrived, and the Davises were there, and my brother Kerry, I basically just kind of took them through it from 1940s all the way to present day. And as they walked down each table and they looked at the art, Doug Anderson and Gina Fidel are the 2 principals of the company. Doug looked at me and said, Lee, I can't do this kind of work. This is amazing. I've never seen art like this. And I go, well, thank you very much. And that's really what set the tone. But when we were done, we were there, I don't know, a couple of hours, I believe, to get through it. They just were standing there with their tongues hanging on the ground going, now we understand why you want to do a legacy site. Well, we've never done one to speak of, and we think it's right up our alley. We'd love to take it on, and that's how the association began. But it was just my determination to make sure that they truly needed a touchy-feely kind of moment to embrace this, and they really did. And I think that really turned the tide for them, because I think they might have said, we're not really interested. We don't really get it. We're not sure we can communicate what it is you want. But if you look at the site and if you look at how they put it together for us, it worked out beautifully. So
as we see on the screen right now, and you can check it out on clubhouserags.com. That's clubhouserags.com. It's a fantastic looking site. It's very well laid out. Mm-hmm. My favorite thing about it is the font, though. I love this font.
Well, guess where that came from?
Where did it come from?
When they asked me the same thing, they said, how do you want to do the font? I said, I want to do it in a style that Dad would have done. So they kind of emulated, not exact, but very close, and I was happy with the final layout, because it looks as if he drafted it to the intros and whatnot, to the different points of interest in the site.
So Dave, so you spent a year with the website.
About
getting it all together.
Yep.
Not only the business side, but also the production side. And then Dave comes in. And so, Dave, what was your contribution to the site?
Well, I had to do the garment part and put the site together for what I felt it should look like. Okay, so I did a whole bunch of preliminaries, and I did paste and stick and a bunch of stuff, and then I'd throw pieces out to Lee to look at, and he would, okay, that looks good, and that looks good, and then as we went, I realized, well, we're going to have to do to myself, I'm going to have to do a good survey on what we're going to need. Are we going to need hats? Are we going to need camp shirts? Polo shirts? Just what are we going to do? And then on top of that, how are we going to show it? Okay, so I went on all the golf sites and found out the colors that most of the golfers wear, and then I found that to do that and make it look right too, I had to look at the pictures that they would have on the websites for golf, and I picked and chewed a lot of that, put together as a collage, and then decided I have to go out and shoot these same shots, but I had to use our garments to do it. And then on top of that, I came across one picture, which is our cover picture of this group. They were standing on the hill just being funny. They were, it's the very first page, and I decided that...
Or opening webpage, yeah.
Yeah, so I decided that I want to do that. So I have a nephew that does video, and he worked at the golf course, and he says, well, come on down, Dave, and we'll do I'll do a shoot. And he was going to shoot all the pictures I needed, and then he also ended up doing a video. And his stuff, it was just fantastic, and he gave us a bunch of stuff to work with, and then I brought it all back, and then worked with the website people, and that's what we have today. But it was a ball doing it.
Yeah, that was a fun day.
Yeah.
So did you get to expense, going to that nice golf course in Hawaii where you took
No,
those photos?
Well, I forgot about the AI, but AI came in quite a bit, because the shots that I did were kind of after doing the shoot, I decided that okay, I got to show the hats and the shirts, and I started going in, and I did it old school, where you kind of hack out the background the best you can and put things in and that. And all of a sudden I came across on the web AI site, and I downloaded this AI site, and I went nuts. As you can see, it was I went all over the world to get my pictures, so it was a ball doing it.
That was that embellishment that I said was the only thing he could do. He took me at my word on that, and thank God he did.
Well, I want to probe this just as a trained fine artist, Dave. I use AI. I use it a lot. I use it to write radio commercials. I use it to do graphics for our various podcasts and website as well. But do you think that AI is going to put artists out of business, or do you think it's a tool that artists can use to even become more efficient?
I think it's going to work both ways. I think it's going to be a tool for the people that work in it, and it's going to not be that good for the people that take advantage of it. And because I see a lot of junk stuff that they're using AI for, and then I see a lot of high-end stuff that they're using it for what it was made for, and it's worth it. But yeah, I wish there was somebody that can control it, and I don't see how they're going to do that.
Lee, were you a little apprehensive about incorporating AI in this project?
Well, I knew that we had to have models, and I knew that it was going to come that time that we had to be able to represent this thing for the website, and they were dying for the content. And so while I was pushing them to do the backstory for the legacy, we were at the same time trying to create in production mode, what are the garments going to look like? So, that first run is not exactly the run that's going to be with you the rest of your lives.
Yeah.
And so we did a lot of prototype stuff and just basically, A versus B, what do you think? Put the logo here. And we had actually at one time, we had more stuff going on for the shirts. We had a QR code on the sleeve that took you to the site. We had a small rags head that was embroidered behind the neck. So, and then we had this logo on the chest, and it got a little too busy. But it's actually good that it did, because that was one of the reasons that we pulled back and we made some changes. It just made it easier.
Yeah.
And for the same reason that when we started, our logo was Clubhouse Rags Rock the Art. And my daughter, my only daughter, has come on board with the company in the last several months. But when she came on board, the first thing she said is, "Dad, I got together a bunch of my friends and I showed them your website. None of them have ever seen it. And I asked them some questions." So it was kind of like kind of an adjunct consumer focus group. And one of the things that they all asked was, "Clubhouse Rags Rock the Art. Is it an art company or is it a golf company?" It's very confusing to us as to what direction this is taking. And it wasn't until that point in time that the light bulb went off over my head, and I go, "You know what? You're right. It is confusing to people." And that's when we took Rock the Art off. And one of the times that we had to stop and make changes in the line. But, funny story, Rock the Art, because it doesn't necessarily work here, just became a big hit over in Japan in the last month.
You never know.
So the logo is now being used there, and that's another show that's going to be coming up to explain that. But yeah, you never know how it goes.
Talk a little bit about the process. I imagine it might be a little bit scary, going from the prototype phase to actual mass production, because you have to really worry about, cost of manufacturing and all that kind of stuff. How's that work?
I found that kind of interesting, because we're trying to keep a low budget as we're working here, but we had 10 images. So, and we had all the garments. So we had, like I said, T-shirts, and we had polo shirts, and we had jackets, and we had everything. But in 10 images, well, if you take one image and you put it on a small up to a 3X shirt, you got a lot of product.
A lot of stuff going, yeah.
So my concept was, well, let's use 10 of the images and separate them into some on T-shirts, some on the polo shirts, one on the jacket. So when we first started, that's what we did. We had all of them there, the characters, but we had to break it down to less product at one time. So
and what he said about budget, it all boils down to dollars and cents. And to do this and to get people involved, to do it right, it's not inexpensive to do.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what I'm thinking about, is like you guys, you kick around the prototype stage, and then it's time to write a big fat check to to the factory. I mean, that's when you're really like, okay, we're doing this.
Yeah, and that's when it gets very real. And real for me. My favorite expression now, when people ask me how things are going with the company, says, "I'm looking forward to the day when I stop writing checks and start signing deposit slips." So there's a lot of truth in that.
Yeah, aren't we all?
Yeah.
Aren't we all? You are listening to the Clubhouse Rags show. If you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple, all episodes are available there. Give us a like, subscribe, and review. Check us out on YouTube as well. Give us a like, subscribe, review, and check out the website, the aforementioned fantastic website, clubhouserags.com. That's clubhouserags.com. And this is the Clubhouse Rags show with Mr. Lee Lathowers and Mr. Dave Davies, and I'm Mike Gary. Stay with us, folks.
Hey, we're back. Thanks, Mike. I want to take a minute. I want to thank our very special in-studio guest today, our art director, Dave Davis. And sitting off to his left is his beautiful wife, Judy Davis, who has also been instrumental in keeping Dave on point to keep me on point. So thank you, Judy, for all the wonderful things that you have done for this company. And sitting right next to her is my younger brother, Kerry. I think Kerry only came along today because he wanted to see where I was spending all of our money. Kerry you'll meet in our next episode. Kerry just came back from Nagoya, Japan, where we've just introduced Clubhouse Rags. Very, very well accepted. And we're going to have a show to showcase that, to talk about what happened over there in Japan. And then on a shameless plug for Clubhouse Rags, on a local note, the Ventura Fairgrounds will be hosting their annual Ventura Seaside Highland Games, which is a Scottish games they've been doing for many years there. And Clubhouse Rags will be one of the many vendors at that wonderful event. It's going to be October 11th and 12th, which is a Saturday and Sunday. It's pretty much all day, and it's everything Scottish. If you can't find it there, you don't need it. So what better place for a bunch of vintage hickory Scottish swinger golfers that appear than at a Scottish festival? So we're excited about that because we'll see how that's accepted. I think it's going to go over really, really well. And it's local for us, so it makes a lot of sense.
As someone that's watched some Scottish Highlands games late at night on ESPN3, will they be doing that rock throw? Where they?
Oh, they do it all. They've got livestock. They do caber toss. They do the rocks.
And they also wear that kilt.
Yeah, a lot of kilts.
Will you gentlemen be wearing kilts?
Yes.
I guess we will.
Yes, we will.
Last question regarding this issue. Do you wear anything underneath the kilts?
We'll be wearing a kilt.
Not traditionally, because my wife's Scots Irish, and I know that's not what happens. There's nothing there but you.
Well, there you go, folks. I think that's the perfect note to end on. Once again, you're listening to the Clubhouse Rags Show. If you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple, we are available there, folks. Give us a like, subscribe, and review. Check us out on YouTube as well. Search for Sierra Digital Talk and find Clubhouse Rags on that platform. And of course, check out the fantastic Clubhouse Rags website for not only their fine apparel products, but also an incredible story about the company, about your father's arts. Yeah. And it's a tremendous place to visit. That's clubhouserags.com. And we're going to see you guys next week here on the Clubhouse Rags Show.
Great.